Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. Welcome to a Monday edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. I hope everybody had a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day again to all the moms out there that listen to our program. We have several moms, I'm sure, that watch our program on a daily basis. Today's program, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to have Seth Harp from ESPN Gainesville, WRUF, and then we'll have Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com get his thoughts on some Gator stuff as well. Let's go ahead and go straight to the Titan Tomorrow hotline, and we're joined by Seth Harp. Good morning, Seth. How you doing, buddy?
Morning, Shane. As always, it's a pleasure, man. Let's get this week started off on the right foot, baby.
Yeah, no doubt. First, I want to start with some pro sports, first of all, because I know you watch sports of all everywhere. Let's talk the NBA playoffs.
Sure.
I'm flipping through the channels yesterday, and I think it was a close game, maybe a 2 or 3 point game there, game 7 in Boston. I go out, do some stuff, come back, it's like 30 points. I was like, what happened? Boy, I guess Doc Rivers and the 76ers are catching a lot of heat today.
Yeah, and I look at it, and it's kind of one of those strange things. What did I see here? He has lost 10 game 7s as a head coach. That's hard to believe, right? It's you do this long enough, you're going to lose. You're going to lose finals. You're going to lose championships. But to have 10 game 7 losses in your career, I keep seeing things like, oh, he's a failure. He can't get it done. The fact that he's won series, the fact that he's gotten to the conference finals now multiple times with multiple teams, or at least the semifinals now, shows that he's a good basketball coach. There's just something missing at the end. And I look at him a little bit. Now, let's not forget he did win a title with the Celtics. What was it? It's been 16 years ago now, 15 years ago. But he almost reminds me a little bit, Shane, of Mark Few at Gonzaga now, where he's good enough to get deep into this thing, just not good enough for whatever reason to clear that final hurdle. They shouldn't have won yesterday. That game's in Boston. Boston is the 2 seed. Boston is the favorite. And if you go back and look at those, there have been a couple that he should have won that he didn't win. But yesterday was one that he shouldn't have won. They're good enough to get there, good enough to get to that point. Now, the question is, with that nucleus, what do they bring back in Philly with Joel Embiid and with James Harden? Who knows what that's going to look like next year? But in the East, as long as Giannis is in Milwaukee and they're loaded the way that they're loaded, as long as Tatum stays in Boston, what Jimmy Butler's done in Miami, it's going to be tough for Philly to get over that hump. It's just a question of who else they may bring in. But I think some of those numbers with Doc Rivers, 10 game 7 losses as a head coach is pretty amazing.
That really is. Some other news out of the NBA, and I hated to see it, but the Suns fired Monty Williams. And this goes to show you the NBA is crazy to me because I saw this on Twitter. 4 of the last 6 NBA coaches of the year have been fired.
Yep.
3 of them this year. So you have Monty Williams, Nick Nurse, Mike Budenholzer, and Dwayne Casey. Are you surprised the Suns got rid of him?
Yeah, but I should say they shouldn't have, but surprised. I'm going to say no. Nothing surprises me with this league anymore. And you look back, wait to see how long it takes him to get snatched up because he's a good basketball coach. What's amazing about this is you have a league that organizations drop guys like flies. And I guess it's because so many players are moving around so often that you want a guy that works best for those players. And maybe Monty and Kevin Durant didn't exactly work, and maybe they want to pick their own guy. Who knows? Who knows exactly the reason behind this? But I look at teams that have been successful over the years. Look at what San Antonio did with Greg Popovich. Now that franchise is on the decline, but one that had a chance to fire their coach multiple times that didn't was the Miami Heat and Eric Spoelstra. Look what Eric Spoelstra has done in Miami the last 12, 13 years, Shane. He's been a head coach there for 13 years now? So you look back 13 years, there have been years that they didn't make the postseason, that they could have fired him. But Pat Riley and that organization stood through it. And now look where they have him again. They know when they get to the postseason, he has that extra, I want to say level or that extra layer to him that he's a good matchup guy. And now he's got Miami on the cusp of going back to the NBA Finals again. So I look at an organization like Miami and how they've stood the test of time. And look, Shane, you've done this long enough. You're a coach now. You've played enough. It reminds me a little bit of what Florida State did. And now he ended up not working out, but with like Willie Taggart, where those fans wanted him fired after the Boise State game in year 2. You start canning coaches after they go to the NBA Finals or the the Western Conference Finals. You start firing multiple coaches year after year. Eventually, you're going to have a coach, a good quality coach, is going to say, "Why do I want to come there? Why on earth would I want to come there so I can go to the Western Conference Finals and you fire me after a year?" There's always somebody that wants to take that next step, but after a while, if I'm a head basketball coach, let's say and there's guys looking for jobs like Nick Nurse, who just lost his job in Toronto, and was it Budenholzer that just got canned in Milwaukee? Those guys are going to be looking for the next opportunity. But this is one of these things that there is no loyalty. I saw one report that they should go after Tom Izzo from Michigan State. Shane, does Tom Izzo seem like a guy that would be able to work in Phoenix? Not for 1 second.
No.
So it'll be interesting to see who that magical guy is out there that they're looking for. I just don't know who it's going to be.
Rules State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. Speaking with Seth Harp, we'll have Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. Second part of today's program. Got a lot to talk about. Obviously, Gator baseball sweeps. Vanderbilt softball is heading out to Palo Alto. Gators pick up some transfers. A couple more pro stuff, and then we'll switch over to college. I want to get your thoughts on the Ja Morant deal.
Ooh, yeah, this is good stuff. Here's the thing. Leagues have rules and organizations have rules. But when you're outside of that organization, how do those rules affect you? I can't take a gun to the University of Florida. I have a license for a firearm, right? I've got one registered. Actually, I think I have two. I have two registered. But I can't take that thing. I can't take my Glock to work, Shane. I just can't do it. But he wasn't at work. I get it. If you're, carrying and you're in the locker room, Gilbert Arenas had a gun out about 15, 20 years ago, trying to intimidate a teammate. I get why you're the NBA and you're like, that's not going to happen. No, you're gone. You're suspended. I get those things. I can't take a firearm into an airport. Understand those things. However, this is one of these things that if he has a license for it, and he still has his Second Amendment right, doesn't he? I mean, I'm trying to figure out why he can't have a firearm. Now, is it irresponsible to be waving a gun on Instagram? I guess maybe, possibly, but let's face it, we're in a world where politicians send out Christmas cards with their 8 and 9-year-old brandishing firearms on the Christmas card. I think I looked it up last night. There's 4 politicians that sent out Christmas cards on social media that had kids under the age of 12 holding guns. So why is that okay in an expression of their Second Amendment rights, but Ja Morant can't have a gun? You go, well, he's not responsible enough to have one. Who are you to say that? He's an adult. He is over the age of 18. If he bought it legally and it's registered, I don't understand what the issue is. Now, he's been warned, and I get it, certain rules, certain organizations, and it's not exactly the same thing, but Shane, if you worked at Coca-Cola and you're in the break room chugging a Pepsi, that's going to be a problem, right? Because that's the rule of the organization. But he's not at work, so I'm trying to. It's when it happened the first time. I'm like, okay, was he out at a club in New York? It's illegal to have a gun in the city. Look what happened to Plaxico Burress, right? About 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, where he went to jail. He shot himself, but it was one of these with the gun. But it was one of these things that he shouldn't have had it. It was illegal. I just don't know the specs behind it. Why it's a big deal for him to have a firearm in his car, and why it's okay for elected officials that run for public office to have commercials where they're holding guns. I'm trying to connect the dots why one is bad and one is okay. And age shouldn't matter when it comes to this, should it? I mean, again, these people are putting their kids on Christmas cards holding firearms. So I'm one of these guys that looks at it and say, is that the wisest thing to do, to be driving down the interstate brandishing a whatever it was? No, it's not a smart thing to do at all. But is it illegal? And I saw somebody, and I was talking about this yesterday. Somebody responded to me on Twitter and said that it's illegal to have your firearm out for everyone to see. What? I don't know how that rule pertains. Is your automobile your property at that point? What is he in Tennessee? I don't know. What is he in Texas? If he's in Texas, he can have a party in that car, and he can get away with it. So I'm going to be fascinated to see how this plays out for the Second Amendment advocates, because again, I'm a firearm owner. I wouldn't be driving around with one waving it in my car, Instagramming at the same time, Shane. But
Yeah.
it's one of those things that, is he constitutionally protected with it? We'll see how this plays out over the course of the next 48, 72 hours. I know that they've suspended him, which I don't know if that's for violation of terms within the team. It'll be interesting to see what all this means. Because again, I use the Coke Pepsi reference of, was it Britney Spears that was a sponsor for Pepsi, or she was a spokesperson for Pepsi, and they caught her drinking a Coke? So I don't know contractually how these things work. Maybe in his contract that he can't have one.
Yeah, we shall see how that all plays out. Andy on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, says, congrats to Bob Stoops. Shane, have you ever crossed paths with Chuck Long, his quarterback coach? I met Chuck several times, especially when we played him this year. Stoops texted me after they won. He said they finally figured it out. And I said, well, you figured it out because you got the quarterback that I wanted before the season started. Luis Perez was the reason they won the championship for sure. Really good player. Another text on the Titan Mar text line. Good morning, guys. Had a great time at the ballpark Friday night. The Gator baseball team's really playing well. When one player goes down, as in Josh Rivera, one steps up, and Derek Fabian. Thanks for the text, Daryl. Yeah, did you get to watch any of the Gator baseball this week? I mean, obviously you probably had to sit in the studio.
Yeah, and Shane, I think it's the most significant 48, 72 hours they've had since they won the national title. I do. And you go through and you look at what they did. And I know Vanderbilt's been struggling offensively, but Shane, none those games, I mean, they spanked them. And to take on a first place team like that, let's face it, Vanderbilt has the pedigree to go to Omaha and win the sucker, to outscore them 22-6. And I wrote down some numbers here because you had the Waldrop Slater game because of the weather, right? Where he warmed up and he only pitched an inning and they didn't want to bring him back out there, which I understand that completely. Starting pitching, when you combine those two, this is amazing. 25 innings. All right, sorry, 17 2/3. 17 2/3 innings. They gave up 2 earned runs.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Starting pitching in 3 games gave up 2 earned runs. You outscore your opponents 22-6. They strike out 21 and they walk 6. You always want a 3-to-1 ratio in baseball, 3 times as many strikeouts per walks, if possible. So this team has struggled all year long with walk to strikeout ratio. Not this weekend. And I look around. I look and think these numbers are just ridiculous. 17 2/3, 21 Ks, 2 earned runs, outscoring Vanderbilt 22-6. If they get that type of, in baseball, you need 2 or 3 things, right? You need hitting, pitching, defense. You win World Series, you win championships with what? Primarily, you win it with pitching and defense. The reason Florida won the national championship 6 years ago was Alex Faedo and those guys on the mound and, score just enough runs, play great defense, win yourself a national title. You need 2 of those 3. And they had all 3 this weekend. And seldom do you find all 3 like that. They're in first place in the East, have a chance to have the best record in the SEC overall, depending on what Arkansas does. And Shane, this is one of these things when it comes to a week. Look, you've won big on big stages. You played on big stages. You won the first right ever division in the history of the SEC when it was the SEC East. For people to discount this and say, winning the SEC doesn't matter, or regular season championships don't matter. All that matter are postseason championships. There's no guarantee you're going to win those suckers. Okay? There's no guarantee. So when you have a chance to win a championship, win the damn thing. Who cares? Well, I'm more worried about the College World Series. Yeah, but you don't get to sacrifice one for the other. You don't get to sit there and say, well, if we don't win the SEC, we're going to win the World Series. It doesn't work that way. So this is a team that has a chance to win the regular season in the SEC. This is a team that has a chance to win the SEC postseason tournament. So I know that the goal and the prize is the College World Series in Omaha, but this team, win this sucker. Man, go out and sweep Kentucky, take 2 or 3 from Kentucky, win your division, win the SEC tournament, and then go on to the College World Series. It's one of these things that you don't know what's going to happen. So at least when it's all said and done, you want these guys to have some sort of championship. You go out and you lose 2 or 3 to Kentucky, you don't win the division, and then you lose in the SEC tournament, then you get bounced before Omaha. Then people are going to be talking about how the season's a failure, and you're not going to have one piece of hardware to hang up. So this talk of I'd rather win the regular season doesn't matter. Well, of course it does. Of course it does. Jack Caglione could be, what do they call it, the Golden Spikes winner, the best player in all of college baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you win that award because of the regular season. There's a certain young lady on the Gator softball team that, wow, what an amazing year she's had. And the team hasn't been, well, it's been below average. It's been okay. But this is ridiculous.
Not what we're used to.
Yeah, I mean, I know the standards are high, but I just look at things like this. It's a big deal if you win the SEC in anything. So the way this team played this week, and again, I thought it was the best 48-hour, 72-hour stretch since they had Omaha back in 2017.
Yeah. A couple other news and notes. I got some text on the Titan Mart text line. People asking what my opinion is about Xavier Henderson transferring to Cincinnati. That's where the reports are. Look, I wish him well. We do have a text. We got a bunch of texts here, but on the Titan Mart text line, this one's for you, Seth, from Jackson. Jackson says, Seth, do you think Anthony Richardson was not used correctly at UF? Why is everyone thinking he's going to be a star in the National Football League, but was so inconsistent and didn't play that great at times at Florida? Is this all due to Billy Napier?
I mean, that'd be a better question for you. You're the quarterback guru, right?
Well, I mean, I'll give my thoughts. My thoughts are, he was drafted that high on potential.
Yes.
It's the NBA. The NFL is becoming a lot like the NBA, in my opinion. It's all potential. Is he gifted? Yes. But does he play the quarterback position the way that it needs to be played on a consistent basis? My answer is no. We will see if the NFL can change him. JC and I have discussed this. I think the world of the kid. He's a great kid. Does things right, but he's the same player that I've seen since high school. And you talk about winning. He hasn't had a winning record at any level, so that goes a long way. So we'll see. But that's my answer, and we'll see how it works out with the Colts.
I look at him the same way I kind of look, and you'll see, because there's 2 ways you can go, right? You can go the Jamarcus Russell route, who extremely athletic, but he won at LSU. He was successful. They had double-digit win seasons there. Or the Josh Allen at Wyoming route. Wasn't it? I think his last year at Wyoming, he had 13 or 14 interceptions for a quarterback at Wyoming, and the stats weren't there. And I think they were a 6-6 football team, or 7-5. They were right there on the cusp. So the knock on him was, this guy's going to lead an NFL franchise. He barely could finish above 500 at Wyoming, but it was one of those things. Look at all the potential. Look at all the upside. And let's face it, Shane, he's almost like a LeBron James of the NFL in terms of his talent, right? He can do all 5 things.
Mm-hmm.
He can do all 5 things. But if arm strength, everybody loves arm strength because I can't teach you to throw the ball farther. Everybody loves speed because I can't teach you to really run any faster. But the mindset of all these guys, right, is I can teach you to be more accurate. That's one thing that we can work on, and we can get their decision making. I can teach you those things as well. So there are some guys that just have a freakish amount of talent, and in the right system, they can make things work. Now, I would have much rather seen him go to Baltimore or even Tennessee with like Mike Vrabel or a John Harbaugh, guys that are structurally sound foundation franchises that end up in Indianapolis. That's my home, Shane. And that franchise, all that franchise did was not protect Peyton Manning and let him have 4 neck surgeries to the point that he almost quit the game at 33, 34 years old because he broke his neck so many times. And Andrew Luck quit at 29 because they couldn't protect him. And too many concussions, couldn't deal with it. And it's the same ownership. I know GMs change, but it's the same ownership. And I know they've done Quentin Nelson. They've done some things. I personally don't like the fit of Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis because it's an organization that just hasn't protected its quarterbacks. And you remember back, I mean, go back to the Jim Harbaugh days, the Jack Trudeau days, the Jeff George days. Yeah, I mean, good gracious, they've never protected their quarterbacks. So they've had good ones, but that's what would scare me about Anthony more so than anything else. Is an organization that just hasn't protected their quarterbacks over the decades.
Yeah, we'll see how that all plays out. Dan says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law, Ole Miss will miss the SEC tournament this year, and they were the national champs last year. I think Mississippi State, the one who won it the previous year, I think they're going to miss the tournament as well, which is crazy when you think about it. Seth, we talked softball briefly, and I'll talk more with it with Scott Carter, but I actually, believe it or not, I'm a huge softball guy. I watched the damn selection show last night.
Okay? I did too.
There are people in the softball world raising hell about Alabama being the national 5 seed when they were the 5th seed in their own conference. Do you have any thoughts of that? I mean, everybody's just saying because it's the brand. They have like the easiest regional out there. I think it's all mid-majors coming to Tuscaloosa. Montana Fouts, their star pitcher. We don't know if she's going to pitch, but any thoughts, or do you even give a damn about Alabama being a 5 seed?
Well, it's funny because Alabama fans usually blame Gary Danielson for something every Saturday, right? So, you give Gary Danielson credit. There's a joke. So there you go. I look at it like this. I mean, that seeding, let's face it, is based on past success. It is. And, like it or not, the what have you done for me lately crowd, softball is one of these things that they understand that they're heavy hitters, and right or wrong, they understand that they're big names making it to Oklahoma City mean everything. Maybe as much more women's sports now are where men's sports were in terms of small amount of teams hoarding a lot of the talent, like where college basketball was in the 70s with UCLA and the like. So I look at it like this. Does it bother me? No, because I want to see the biggest, best brands get there. I do. So I look at it like this. Was it fair? Probably not. But those things have a way of working themselves out, right? So if they get through this, they'll be at the national 4 seed. The question when it comes to this sport is anybody playing for anything other than silver medals? I don't. Oklahoma's just a juggernaut at this point, but Alabama caught some breaks, right? And they're right back there. They probably got a free pass, at least to the super regionals, which fair, unfair, they earn. That's because of past success. So right or wrong, now Florida, their past success didn't help them, right? They get to go out to Palo Alto, go out to California, and I was looking at some of those game times, Shane. Oh my gosh, I think if they win Friday, first pitch is like 9:30 Saturday night. And that's when they'd be playing Stanford. So the good news is if you like Gator sports, softball and baseball aren't really going to have a conflict Saturday and Sunday because baseball plays Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and softball's going to be playing at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. So maybe a good weekend to stay in.
Yeah, and the other team that there are people raising hell about was Oklahoma State, who's lost like 3 of their last. They've only won 3 of like their last 15 games, something like that, and they were a pretty high seed as well. But as you said, my question to you: would you take Oklahoma or the field to win the national title?
Oklahoma. Shane, would I rather have 1 Ferrari or 13 Toyotas? I mean, right? I mean, it's just far. And I know the logic is I take the field. That's fine. In the 80s, you can have the field or Mike Tyson. I'll take Mike Tyson. That's where they are right now at this point. So they've only lost 1 game all year? 1 or 2? Is it 1 or 2?
One. They're 50-something and 1.
51-1 or whatever they are, at ridiculous number. So most cases, like the NCAA men's basketball tournament, I take the field because there's enough talent out there with other teams that you can pull that off. In the NFL postseason, I'd always take the field over like the Chiefs, or maybe that's about ready to change. We'll see. But in this case, what Oklahoma's done, I take Oklahoma. It's always, it reminds me of these big trades where you could have one superstar. It's like, oh, we got these 5 minor league baseball players, and oh, they want all 5 of those minor leaguers for Shohei Ohtani. I'd make that trade like that. I'd much rather have the 1 Ferrari than the 5, pickup trucks.
Yeah, some trucks are good though.
Yeah, they are.
Dan says on Facebook Live, and I did not realize this. I didn't even think about it while I was watching the show last night. He says Michigan and Arizona did not make the softball tournament, and they are blue bloods in the softball world. Wow.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Wow.
Very true.
Arizona a couple years ago. Wow.
The text on here because JC and I have kind of battled the last couple of weeks since it's come out about the some of these win totals that some of these sports books have put out for the Gators. I said we go way over 5.5 or whatever it is. What are your thoughts on that?
They'll go over 5.5. Shane's probably a 7-win football team, right around there. I think that's fair. The trick of this is right, in order to have a winning season, just the way the schedule still is at this point, what do you have to do? There's 4 teams in there, 4 games that you have to win 3 of them if you want to have a winning season. Now, the LSU on the road and Utah on the road, Georgia and Jacksonville, those are all fun, but those aren't those 4. If you want to have a winning season, there's 4 teams in there. Kentucky, Mizzou, right? Vanderbilt, South Carolina, got to win 3 of them. Kentucky,
you got to win them all. I see.
Yeah, probably.
See, here's my thought, and I'm crazy. Last year I said if they won 7 games, I thought it'd be a tremendous year. I've already come out and said I think this team wins 8 games. I think they're going to be a better overall football team. People are worried about the quarterback position, but they're going to be better everywhere else. And I do think Graham Mertz will be a consistent player. He's not going to make the splash plays, but I think he's going to be consistent. But like you just said, I think they win all 4 of those games. Yeah. Then you got the 2 so-called cupcakes. That puts you at 6 right there. And I said when you look at the schedule, there's 2 teams on there that I don't think they can beat, and that's at LSU, and they're not going to beat Georgia. But I'm not a believer in Florida State. I didn't think they were very good last year, and I still don't think they're very good. I mean, I've told JC they beat 1 team with a winning record last year. 1 team. So we'll see. And they come to the Swamp. But I think they win 8 games. But but you're right. Those schools that you just mentioned, those should be no-brainers. Like, oh, we're going to beat those teams. Now, granted, we've lost to them in the last few years, but I think we're going to get back on that. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that.
Yeah. Well, when I was in Michigan all those years, Michigan always win 10, 11 games with John DeBoer and, Chad Henne and those guys. And how they did it is because they always beat Indiana, always beat, Northwestern, always beat Illinois. They always beat those teams. And that's how you win double-digit games. So of those 4, if they win 3 of those 4, they're going to be at least 500. If they win all 4 of them, you're right. They're probably going to have a 7-8 win season. And then you have big swing games like Utah's a swing game. At LSU, Georgia are going to be tough. They're not quite there yet. So, yeah.
We got a couple of texts here on the Titan Mark text line talking about the transfer portal. The Gators picked up an offensive lineman out of the portal. They supposedly lost on a guy that ended up going to Notre Dame. And I know people are raising hell about it. But we've had a couple of texts on the Titan Mark text line. I want to get your thoughts on this, Seth. A lot of people are criticizing Billy Napier and his staff for being too slow. Again, as I try to tell people, you can't get upset. I mean, they're doing everything they can to get these players to come to Florida. Again, these players have choices, and you have to take your orange and blue glasses off and realize these guys are going to go where they want to go. Florida's gotten some, Florida's lost some. But do you think their process is too slow? But there's more to it than getting guys on campus.
Yeah, and the first thing he has to do is he has to stabilize the school, right? He's got to stabilize the program, which last year was rough. You had a bunch of transfers, and Anthony Richardson has an amazing draft postseason leading up to it. But let's face it, it was a team that looked like a team that had a first-year head coach, and it's going to be more of a. Remember what Brian Kelly did at Notre Dame, Shane? It took him a while. It took him a while before he got that thing stabilized there. And they were losing ridiculous games. I think they lost to Tulsa at home. They were losing bad games when he started. It took him a couple years to get that party cooking. So I look at Billy almost like the same way I look at what Brian Kelly did at Notre Dame, where he had to come in and go, okay, I got to change the culture here. Charlie Weiss, this thing's a mess. I need to rebuild this thing. And that's what he's done. Now, I know everybody wants to land the big flashy, we need to be recruiting up there with Georgia. We need to be recruiting up there with Alabama. That's not going to happen right now. It's one of these things that this is going to be. I look at it like this, Shane. Some people like to buy and build a brand new house, and boy, that can be done and look really nice. But what he's trying to do is he's trying to gut one of those old mansions like on Rainbow Row in Charleston, those old 350-year-old houses that he's going to renovate and remodel. Boy, there's the Historical Preservation Society. There's all those things that you have to deal with as you make that complete and total remodel and rebuild. So what he's doing right now is he's trying to get guys in here that can stabilize this thing to go forward. I know everybody wants the big, flashy 5-star, this guy here. Billy Napier needs to recruit the guys that make him comfortable to build this thing, because you start reaching for 4 and 5-star guys constantly, and they're not good fits for your program. It's gonna be a mess. And I'm gonna liken this to an NFL franchise that did this. Jalen Ramsey's one of the best corners in the NFL. He was not a fit in Jacksonville, baby. He just wasn't. And the fact that they drafted him and he wasn't a good fit. So I have no problem with how Billy's doing this right now at this point. And nobody's patient anymore. They're not. Mm-hmm. But it's going to take him. I mean, I thought by year 3, they should be sniffing 9 wins by year 3. In year 1, he went 6-7. Okay. And he lost ugly games to Kentucky and Vandy. If he can flip the script on those 2 games this year, you're right, Shane. He's an 8-4 coach. So, yeah. I mean, and then at 8-4, who knows what? Then at 8-4, you put yourself in a position, you may get a 5-star quarterback that's unhappy at insert USC that wants to come here. Then you can start to pull things like that. So let's not forget what is it, like 3 of the last 4 Heisman Trophy winner quarterbacks didn't start off at the school where they won it. So just chill out here a little bit, man. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, Asa says on Facebook Live, Brian Kelly just turned it around at LSU. It was an Orgeron mess, and he straightened out in 1 year, but 9 coaches with them. That's what an executive coach does, someone with lots of experience. I hear what he's saying, but LSU's roster was still light years ahead of Florida's roster.
They had so much. They had a lot of talent.
Yeah, I've been telling people for the last 3 years, our front 7 on defense, and I'm just sticking with the front 7 of defense, was not even like mid-major talent level, in my opinion. I don't know if it's going to be this year. We shall see. But that's been the biggest problem with the defense, has been the front 7 for a long, long time. Seth, before we get you out of here, aren't you doing your own podcast these days?
Yeah, I got Harp on Sports. I cranked one off last night. Talked about a lot of the same stuff that we talked about today. Talked about the Jaguar Stadium thing, in which this means Florida and Georgia are coming. If this happens, Shane, Florida and Georgia are going to be home homes. And does that make it? Does that turn Florida Georgia into Florida Tennessee? If that lives on in perpetuity, just one of the questions that we ask.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think the Jags will be playing in the Swamp. I think they'll end up playing in Orlando. So we'll see how all that works. Seth, good stuff. Let everybody know how they can follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, at Harp on Sports. Come on there, argue with me, fight with me. We have a lot of fun. At Harp on Sports Twitter, Harp on Sports Facebook page, harponsports.com. And, of course, the podcast, Harp on Sports, The Bar, as you can see. Spotify, Buzzsprout, Apple Podcasts, the whole 9 yards.
Good stuff. Appreciate your time, my man.
Thanks, Shane. Appreciate the time as always, bud. Thank you so much.
That's Seth Harp. Join us on the Titan & More Hotline. Going to take a quick time out. Come back. We'll be joined by senior writer for FloridaGators.com, Scott Carter. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the Morning from the Crowd. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise.
Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics. Live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's. Eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, M.M. Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
There are a few tickets left for Gainesville's best pig roast and special whiskey debut. Sunday, May 21st from 2 to 5 p.m., Spurrier's Gridiron Grill is roasting a whole pig and sipping Piggyback Rye whiskey. Join us at Vicer's Rooftop for the release of Spurrier's Piggyback Rye's private labeled barrel select whiskey. We'll have specialty drinks, games, raffles, plus each ticket includes your own bottle of Spurrier's Piggyback Rye whiskey to take home. Go to Spurriers.com to get your ticket to join 125 of your friends at the Rooftop Pig Roast before we sell out.
Hi, Steve Spurrier here. You know, making a reservation at my restaurant is easier than a Saturday afternoon homecoming game against Vandy. You don't have to call or email. Just go to Spurriers.com, hit the reservation button, pick a date, a number of guests, and a time. It's so simple, I can do it. In fact, I just did. Maybe I'll see you tonight.
Like Regal Cinemas, The Keys, Dave & Buster's, Palmetto Moon, Starbucks, Visor's Rooftop, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. The #1 celebrity polished casual restaurant in America will see you at Celebration Point, where the Gators go to celebrate. Now we're going to head to the Titan MR hotline back. We know it's spring sports, a lot of stuff to write about. This dude's in his office already this morning. Scott Carter, welcome to the program. You're on the Titan MR hotline. How are you, my man? I think he's still having some issues with. We'll get him in just a second. In the meantime, this day in sports brought to you by our good friends at Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. This day in sports in 2016 at the Players Championship over at TPC Sawgrass, the world #1, Jason Day wins over Kevin Chappell, and Jason Day won the AT&T Byron Nelson yesterday, heading into the PGA Championship. That's brought to you by our good friends at Campus USA Credit Union. Scott is logging back in. He's having some technical difficulties. Let me send my number to our producer so he can call Scott and get it all worked out. This is live radio, live TV here, folks. Let me see if I can get it. Scott Carter. There he is. We're going to share it. Richard. Okay, there we go. As we said earlier, if you missed it, softball is heading out to California. They'll be in the Stanford Regional. They'll play Friday evening against Loyola Marymount. Baseball has Kentucky this weekend. And boy, we're going to talk to Scott about it. Heartbreaker for Florida lacrosse, losing the last seconds to Notre Dame, and then track. I don't know if you people saw it on Twitter, but pull up Twitter. The 4x100 relay men's relay team set an NCAA record, and it was phenomenal. Phenomenal how they came from so far behind. I watched it. I thought they were kidding me. I was like, "There's no way we're going to win this race," and boy, it was good stuff for sure. We're still trying to get Scott Carter on the Titan MR hotline. If he has to, we'll just have him call us. If whatever, we'll have our producers figure it out. Scott, are you there? Do we have Scott? Must be those new computers over at UF. Dan says this day in sports, Emmitt Smith was born. Oh, that one didn't pop up. Well, happy birthday to old number 22, Emmitt Smith. Still waiting to get Scott. I see his picture on the screen. but that was the 4x400. You're right, Andy. My bad, not the 100. 4x400. Is Scott there? Can we just call him? All right. We're still working on this. You know what we're going to do? We're going to take another quick timeout right now because we need to get Scott. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to take another quick timeout and we're going to get him on.
We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peaceland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. Campus USA Credit Union.
QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, and watch. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co., Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Doreen Wibby, Realtor Caldwell Banker, MM Parish. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Aver and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Q Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us. Home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. We got it figured out. Scott Carter, senior writer at FloridaGators.com. Those computers up there in that old stadium office is not working great today, huh, Scott?
Yeah, man, they are cranky this morning. I don't know if they haven't had their coffee or what, but having some issues. But Shane, thank goodness we have iPhones now. You know, you can pretty much do anything now with an iPhone, except I think fly. I don't know. You can probably fly a plane, but But yeah, so glad to make it on the show.
Yep. All right, we got a lot to talk about. Alan, I got to respond to Alan's Facebook Live here. He says he's trying his best to stay the course. It's hard sometimes when we don't get the recruits that we want and need. I just hope the Lions can take some pressure off the ball handlers, receivers, blah blah blah. You're not going to get all the recruits. Trust me, Scott. I mean, Alan, that's the way of the world. First of all, you only have so many guys you can have on your football team. You can't have everybody. And these kids are going to choose where they want to go. All right, let's start football. Since we had a football question there. They get the big O-line transfer from FIU. Is he going to be penciled in and you think play right away?
Oh, well, I mean, I think he'll be definitely on that too deep right away and probably get a lot of playing time. I mean, you know, that's a position of need. And there's still some questions there, obviously, with Maskua, has health and they're rebuilding their Shane. So I thought that was one of those need priority guys that, okay, we've got a hole or two up here. Let's get somebody who's got a little experience already in college football, fits the profile that we're looking for with our offensive lineman. And that's how I looked at that. So I would expect him to see the field, though, for sure.
What's funny is I had a text from somebody, I don't remember, I deleted it. They were all upset because we didn't get the guy from Rhode Island. I think it was Rhode Island, the kid that went to Notre Dame.
Carter,
but
yeah.
then he's complaining about why would we take an offensive lineman from FIU? I would take more players from FIU than I would Rhode Island. So it's just funny how it's just hilarious how people look at it.
Well, they get every name on the recruiting portal or recruiting anywhere. I mean, every name's going to be a great player. It doesn't matter anything else.
Yeah. But if you don't get him, it's not that good. Or they get pissed off that we didn't get him. But anyway.
That's the way it goes.
All right, let's move on from football. Track. My goodness, Scott. I just told everybody, look at the 4x400 men's relay on Twitter. I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, okay, why is this a big deal? I was like, there's no way they're winning this race. That was phenomenal.
Well, we've gotten so accustomed to what they're doing over there with Mike Holloway and that program with all those national championships. But that was a special performance by that group, closing like that. And I mean, I haven't been around track as much as normal lately, just other things going on. But, that team just continues to amaze me. It's a team, how track is, Shane. Those are big events like over the weekend. You go into them and you think, okay, they have a chance, they don't have a chance. But then everything starts to unfold and, you have a special performance like that. Suddenly you're going to be a headliner. Jasmine Moore in the jumps. I mean, she's been amazing since she came to Florida. She had another great weekend. And it's going to be interesting to watch that program as the NCAA finals come up, because you just never know with Mouse. He always gets them peaking at the right time.
Yeah, and I know I had a text on here from, I think it was Sharon, talking about, should we be disappointed that we didn't win the SEC in track this year? It's such a weird sport because it's an individual deal, but it's also a team deal, and they had so much success the last year or so. But again, these guys all move on to the NCAA, and anything can happen there. But yeah, that NCAA record on the 4x4 100 was just, you got to watch it. You got to watch it. All right, let's move to softball. Obviously, this is a softball season that I don't think we've ever seen under Tim Walton. 18 years here, they have to travel out to Palo Alto. Will Chris Harry be traveling with them?
I don't think Chris will go on this one. If they were to surprise us and get to the next round, he might go. But you said it all right there in your intro, Shane. It's just a different kind of year with the Gators under Walton. This is not obviously his best team. I think they're still in the NCAA postseason, but with what how high the bar he has set, it's clearly a kind of a down year. And I don't think there's any secret why. They just don't have the pitching that we've seen them have in the past when they made their runs at the NCAA tournament and into the College World Series. So I don't expect them to really advance too far because of their pitching, but they have some offense, and obviously Scholar is just a special player, one of the best they've ever had, and they'll make it interesting. But yeah, it's a different kind of postseason for the Gators, Shane.
Yeah, Skylar Wallace. I watch a lot of softball over the years. It was Amanda Lorenz for me, but now she surpassed Amanda Lorenz as the best Gator softball player I've ever seen.
She's amazing.
So lacrosse, a lot of people don't follow lacrosse. I'll be honest, I don't either. But dadgum, they lost a heartbreaker yesterday to Notre Dame.
They really did. I mean, they were down there late in the second half, and they came back to tie it up at 15. And then, they have all the momentum, but Notre Dame gets a draw, and, they score a winning goal with 10 seconds left, man. And Florida loses 16-15. That was for a spot in the Elite Eight. And, it's a Gators team that they've been playing really well. I think it won 12 in a row going into yesterday. But, this is the time of year where every opponent's going to be tough. And Notre Dame and Florida were pretty evenly matched. I think Florida was ranked 6th. Notre Dame was ranked 8th. Obviously, Gators had the home field advantage, but it was hot out there, and Notre Dame really played a good game. It was a good game for both sides. I mean, it was one of the most competitive lacrosse games that I think the Gators have played in their program history. And it's just unfortunate, you lose like that. It's a heartbreaker, man. I mean, I was over at the baseball, but Chris Harry was at lacrosse, and he texted me and he said, we've got a thriller and a heartbreaker here, meaning that, it didn't go the Gators' way, but it was a hell of a game. So unfortunate way to end the season.
Yes, indeed. We want to send a lot of luck to the SEC Champs men's golf team. They crank it up. They probably already teed off up there in Michigan. They got 3 days up in Michigan. They're the 2 seed up there. I think they got a chance to really make some noise. J.C. Deacon and his crew. All right, baseball. Big sweep of the Vandy boys. This could go a long ways from an top 8 seed to winning the SEC. Now, obviously, you got to go to Kentucky and back it up. But boy, that was a dominating performance this weekend.
Really was, Shane. I thought that was exactly what the doctor ordered for the Gators. I mean, going into that series, it was for first place in the SEC East. They were 2 games back at the start of the series. Now they're a game up after the sweep, and it all started on the mound. I mean, the Florida pitching in this series, one of the first game was a 7-inning game with the Gators winning 10-0. So they're 25 innings, though. They gave up just 15 hits, 3 runs, only 2 earned, 7 walks, and 27 strikeouts. That's what you call getting it done. That included Jack Caglione's great performance on Sunday. Jack is one of those guys that he's been a roller coaster on the mound, at least. We all know what kind of potential he has, but he talked about it after the game. He really started, pitching, maybe getting his off-speed stuff in, finding his spots instead of just throwing it. Thought that was the best performance he's had at Florida as a pitcher. Brandon Sproat did his thing on Friday night. And then Saturday was a little odd with the rain kind of just getting Hurston Waldrop 1 inning. But then the bullpen came in and did a great job. So it was just one of those performances, Shane. And, Sully afterward, he was kind of downplaying, look, it's only 1 series. We got a lot of baseball left to play, going up to Kentucky, as you mentioned. So now can they kind of follow it up and go up there and finish the season strong, go to the SEC tournament? But I really think that, if they play like they did over the weekend against Vanderbilt, we're going to see this team in Omaha.
Well, it's good to see Derek Fabian, who hadn't played a whole lot or produced a lot this year. Boy, he had a great weekend.
He did. Derek got in there on Friday night because Josh Rivera was still in concussion protocol at shortstop. And what does he do? He hits a 2-run homer in the bottom of the 2nd. And that really set the tone for the whole weekend because it gave them a 2-0 lead. They win game 1, 10-0 in 7 innings. And they come back 6-2 on Saturday. And then, of course, yesterday they win, 5-1? I can't. The scores jumbled together, but just a really good weekend for Derek Fabian. I mean, we all know his story last year playing with his brother Judd, starting at third base, but with Rivera having a tremendous season, Colby Halter, starting at third, and then really what's kept Derek out of the lineup more than anything is the emergence of Cade Curlin at second base, a freshman. I mean, he's having an All-American season. So Derek's been kind of the odd man out, which is going to happen in baseball when you have a good depth. And he got in there and ended up starting the last 2 games of the series for Halter at third. Had, I think, 4 hits in the series, and got to be a big confidence boost for him, but also for the team, just knowing that, hey, this guy is still engaged. So if we do need him here in the postseason, he'll be ready for us.
Did I see a picture or did I read this on Twitter? I can't remember what rain delay we had, but somebody, I don't know if it was a picture or, as I said, somebody tweeted it. Was Sully out there moving the damn tarp?
He was. It was Saturday night. It was kind of weird. I mean, it was one of those classic Florida moments where there was clouds around, but it didn't really feel like it was going to rain or anything. But in the bottom of the first 5 pitches in, it just starts pouring down. I mean, it poured down for like 15, 20 minutes. And then they were wanting to get the game restarted. And Sully gets out there to kind of, let's go, guys. So he grabs the tarp and starts pulling it. And basically he said afterward that I just wanted to get us going. I wanted to get to play that game. So, hey, I liked it. I mean, it just shows you, hey, he's willing to get his hands dirty. But it was funny to see him out there doing that. That's something I don't think I've seen that one before.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a picture or maybe it was Sean Kelly. I don't know if he was doing TV or what.
Sean did tweet a picture of him out there doing it.
Yeah. You don't ever see the manager of a ball club out there doing the dealing with the tarp, but that was good stuff for sure. Scott, we appreciate your time. I know you got a lot going on during this spring sports season, but we appreciate your time today, my man.
All right, Shane, you have a good one, buddy.
That's Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. Does a tremendous job covering the Gators. We appreciate his time joining us on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline. Hope you enjoyed today's program. I want to thank Seth Harp and Scott for joining us. Make sure you tell all your friends and family to follow our programs. If you got a couple people may want to advertise, we'd love to have you a part of our program. Have a great day, folks, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.